You're welcome again to another edition of our farm tips. So I'll be giving you some few tips on how to go about these effective feeding strategies. First and foremost, you need to do what we call age appropriate feeding. That is, you need to face your feeding. Starter feed with high protein between 20 to 24%. So it is needed at the very first phase of feeding, that is 0 to 3 weeks. Then you have your grower feed, you have finish feed, your finisher feed for the broiler beds, and you have the layer feed for the layer beds. So you need to first categorize your beds into this phase so that you'll be able to know what feed is appropriate at every stage of life of the bed. So like I said, be it your broiler, be it your pullet, be it your broiler, at every stage of the bed you need to categorize them into these phases to know which and what to give at every phase. And also it's always good to go with a manufacturer's guide to help you monitor the weight of a weight gain per bed per week, and know if you are if you are on track of your production. In terms of when you're doing your broilers, if you're on track, you look at the weight gain per week and you take the initial weight, then at the end of the week you take the weight again, then you subtract. So by the time you look at the increase in weight, that is the weight gain for that week, and vis-a-vis the manufacturer's manual, you'll be able to ascertain if you're on track in terms of weight gain. Then also you need to look at what we call consistent feeding schedule. You need to feed your birds consistently. You can't afford to feed your bird anytime you wish. You have to stick with this time regime. If you are feeding 7 o'clock in your first feeding, 7 o'clock, you stick to it. If you are feeding 8 o'clock, you stick to it. Then the second feeding, if you are feeding 12 based on the weather, times it is always advisable you don't feed in the hot temperate time. So you look at the cool time of the day, maybe 3-4, then you do your second feeding. So at times it is advisable to break it into 3: feed early in the morning, feed midday, and feed later in the evening, so that all this is just to ensure proper management. Also, we talked about them having access to clean water. It is very essential that your birds have access to clean water. And when we say clean water, we talked about water you yourself as a human being can drink. If you can't drink the water in your pen house, then definitely it is not hygienic for your birds. You need to provide them with water at every time. You need to ensure that there is no dehydration, because dehydration brings about slow feed intake and it affects growth significantly. Also, there is need for you to supplement with vitamins and minerals, vitamin A, B, C, vitamin A, D, E, B, B complex. You need to give to these birds. You need to supplement that also. And when you look at your feed form and quality, it's also important, because these are the factors that determine if your birds are picking the right quantity in terms of balanced ration. Now we have what we call the mash, and we have what we call the pellet. Pellet and crumble, they come in the same form. So when you are raising your broilers, it is advisable that you feed on pellet and crumble. Crumble for the initial stage, then pellet for the finisher stage. So when you feed your birds with crumbles, so at every crumble being picked, you are sure that the birds are picking a complete balanced diet from every peck. So unlike when you have your mash feed, that the birds do what we call selective picking. They pick the visible grains, the maize, whatever you are adding to it. To pick the visible one and leave some of the micro ingredients which are very, very important to the daily intake of the bird. So if you are having selective picking when it comes to match, definitely in terms of growth, you won't be getting what is advisable. You won't be getting what is required. Thank you. You need to also avoid overcrowding. Overcrowding is one of the challenges that comes about during rearing your pets, because most times when you have a pen that is overcrowded, you have a lot of stress. Stress occurs to the bird because they are not comfortable. Then it reduces feeding efficiency and also cause growth disparity. You see, we have the shooters among these birds that will be the first to eat because the place is not stable. You won't have enough room for them to move freely. You don't have enough space for the bird. You see some of them coming out as runts, and this will not give you a good production. If you're talking about if you're a layer farmer, you see some of your birds will come to lay early, and some will have maybe depending on the ratio at which you have stunted growth and the likes. You see some of them that are runs that will be delayed for another 4-5 weeks. That is why you see when you look at your birds coming into lay, instead of you having that progression in terms of production, your number of eggs picked per day, as the birds are dropping, instead of you having that increased production, you might be having a stagnant production for like some weeks before you see another jump in production, because the ones that have not catch up, they need to wait for them till they catch up before you see an increase. And if you are raising broilers also, you see that by the time you are cropping your birds, maybe probably at 5 or 6 weeks, you see that majority you might have just few of the birds, maybe like 20-30% already attaining 2 kg, while the others are at an average of about 1.6 1.7. This can be as a result of overcrowding. So you need to take cognizance of this, because overcrowding affects feed efficiency. Also, you need to monitor the body weight of this bird. Whether you are a broiler farmer or you are a layer farmer, at every point in time of this bird during their growing stage, you need to monitor the bird. For us at Amo Farm, for every of our farmers, we give them a manual guide to look at week by week, and to know the expected weight gain, the expected feed intake, the expected water intake, the expected space at every week. So when you follow those guidelines, they are suggested guidelines. When you follow this, you are rest assured that you are monitoring the performance of your birds. You are monitoring the weight of your broilers to know if they are in tune with the standard requirements, to know if you are doing the right thing at the right time. Also, if you are rearing your layers, if you are very close to the standard, or even if you are surpassing the standard, you can be rest assured that your birds will drop at the required time. That is about 17-18 weeks. They are dropping, and you can follow the progression with the manner you can. So you need to do this body monitoring, this weight monitoring. So with these few tips, if you can stick to some of these things, I believe you have a better growth and better performance. See you another time, another episode where we'll bring you other topics are having challenges with, and we'll come up here to share 1 or 2 things with you. See you next time.